There is a silent war that most people never realize they are fighting. It does not announce itself with headlines or alarms. It does not require armies or borders. Instead, it unfolds quietly, strategically, while you sleep. The most dangerous battles are never fought in daylight, and the most valuable targets are never attacked openly. Destiny is one of them. Dreams are not accidental. They are not mental static or emotional residue. Throughout history, critical turning points, warnings, instructions, betrayals, and deliverances were first revealed in the night watches. When something of eternal significance is at stake, the battlefield often shifts to the realm where defenses are lowest and perception is raw. If your destiny were insignificant, it would not be contested. If your future carried no weight, there would be no resistance. But when purpose is real, opposition is inevitable and subtle. What cannot be destroyed outright is often stolen gradually. What cannot be stopped publicly is sabotaged privately. Tonight we are not discussing superstition or symbolism for its own sake. We are examining evidence, patterns, signals, 7 specific dream experiences that function like fingerprints at the scene of a crime. If you have seen them, felt them, or awakened unsettled by them, it may not be imagination at work. It may be a warning that something precious is being taken and that it is time to wake up. Dreams are often dismissed as the mind's way of cleaning house, a neurological byproduct of memory and emotion. That assumption alone has cost many people years of progress, clarity, and purpose. When destiny is involved, nothing is wasted, not even sleep. Dreams function as a form of intelligence, a transmission layer where information bypasses conscious filters and reaches the core of perception. Throughout scripture and history, the most critical warnings arrived not in daylight logic, but in nocturnal revelation. Kings were warned, plans were exposed, futures were redirected while bodies rested and spirits listened. When destiny comes under pressure, the conflict rarely announces itself in obvious ways. Instead, the first disturbances appear as symbolic interruptions. Dreams begin to shift in tone. Familiar environments feel unstable. Authority is undermined. Direction becomes blurred. These are not random scenes. They are coded briefings. Just as military intelligence never looks like the battlefield itself, but a map of intentions, dreams reveal strategies, not outcomes. They expose what is being attempted before it manifests in waking life. One of the most misunderstood aspects of dreams is symbolism. Symbols are not obscurity. They are compression. A single image can carry layers of meaning faster than language. A stolen item in a dream is rarely about the object itself. It is about jurisdiction. A house points to identity or calling. Clothing reflects authority or office. Documents represent legitimacy or access. Vehicles indicate direction and momentum. When these are lost, taken, or damaged in dreams, the message is not emotional. It is operational. Something assigned to you is being challenged. The reason dreams are targeted is simple. Defenses are lower. In waking life, reason argues, pride resists, and fear distracts. But in dreams, the soul receives without negotiation. That is why both divine instruction and adversarial manipulation use the same channel. Ignoring dreams does not make them powerless. It simply leaves them uninterpreted. Intelligence ignored is not neutral. It benefits the opposing side. Another critical factor is timing. Dreams often surface before external disruption occurs. By the time confusion, delay, or repeated setbacks appear in real life, the dream warning may already be weeks or months old. This lag creates frustration because the individual feels blindsided, unaware that advance notice was already given. Destiny theft is rarely abrupt. It is incremental. Small diversions compound. Minor compromises stack. Direction erodes one decision at a time. Recurring dreams are especially significant. Repetition is escalation. When the same message arrives multiple times, it signals that the issue has not been addressed. This is not the mind replaying trauma. It is the spirit insisting on attention. In intelligence terms, repetition means priority. If the dream does not change, it is because the conditions have not changed. Fear plays a central role in these dream encounters. Fear is not merely emotional, it is strategic. A dream that strips you of voice, leaves you running without escape, or places you perpetually late is not predicting failure. It is attempting to program it. Fear narrows perception. It reduces risk-taking. It convinces people to self-censor their own calling. A destiny delayed by fear looks like caution but feels like stagnation. Perhaps the most uncomfortable truth is that theft requires access. Nothing is taken without a door, a foothold, or legal ground. Dreams often expose these access points long before the person recognizes them consciously. Unresolved grief, unhealed betrayal, lingering guilt, or silent compromise all appear symbolically. A broken wall, an unlocked door, an abandoned child. These are not accusations, they are diagnostics. Understanding dreams as strategic intelligence shifts responsibility. The goal is not fascination, but response. Awareness alone changes the battlefield. Once intelligence is decoded, intervention becomes possible. Destiny is not fragile, but it is contested. Dreams are not meant to frighten you, they are meant to inform you. And information, when acted upon, turns vulnerability into authority and warning into preservation. The assault on destiny rarely begins with visible failure. It begins with invisible distortion. Purpose is not attacked at the level of results, but at the level of identity. Before actions can be sabotaged, perception must be altered. This is why the conflict so often centers on who you believe you are rather than what you are doing. Performance can be corrected, identity, once fractured, self-destructs quietly. Dreams become the arena where this strategy is first deployed because they bypass the conscious narratives people use to protect their self-image. When destiny is under threat, dreams often present scenarios where competence is removed. You know what to do, yet you cannot move. You have words, yet no sound comes out. You arrive at a critical moment unprepared, improperly dressed, or without the necessary credentials. These are not predictions of incompetence. They are attempts to redefine self-perception. If you can be convinced internally that you are unqualified, external opportunities will be rejected without resistance. The enemy does not need to block doors you will refuse to walk through yourself. Another recurring pattern involves authority figures behaving unexpectedly. Teachers, parents, leaders, or officials appear hostile, dismissive, or absent. This reflects an attack on alignment. Destiny is never fulfilled in isolation. It requires proper positioning under authority and within timing. When dreams portray authority as unreliable or adversarial, the underlying objective is to provoke rebellion, withdrawal, or mistrust. Once alignment is broken, purpose becomes fragmented. The individual may remain gifted, but the gift operates without covering, direction, or endurance. Identity attacks also surface through role confusion. You are in the wrong place, doing the wrong task, or living someone else's life. You may dream of working endlessly with no progress, studying for an exam you never complete, or repeating basic training despite years of experience. These scenarios are not about effort. They are about misplacement. Destiny delayed often looks like busyness without advancement. The energy is real, but the direction has been subtly altered. Timing is another primary target. Dreams of being late, missing flights, or watching opportunities depart without you are not announcing inevitability, they are attempting resignation. If you can be persuaded that you are always behind, you will stop expecting divine appointments. Hope is time-sensitive. Once expectancy dies, initiative follows. A destiny does not need to be destroyed if it can be postponed indefinitely. Delay masquerading as patience is one of the most effective forms of theft. Children in dreams frequently symbolize future potential, legacy, or emerging purpose. When children are lost, endangered, or taken, the issue is not literal family, but future impact. These dreams often occur during seasons when a new assignment, idea, or calling is forming. The attack is preemptive. It aims to abort before manifestation. Many abandon their future not because it failed, but because it was threatened before it had language. Dreams involving disguise or mistaken identity reveal another layer of attack. You are accused of something you did not do, or you are unable to prove who you are. This speaks to legitimacy. Destiny requires authorization. If legitimacy can be questioned internally, confidence collapses externally. People begin to over-explain, overcompensate, or withdraw. The goal is not exposure, but silence. It is important to understand that these dreams do not indicate weakness, they indicate value. No one mounts a complex operation against something inconsequential. Resistance is proportional to significance. The more specific the dream, the more targeted the opposition. General anxiety produces vague dreams. Strategic interference produces detailed scenarios with emotional precision. The most revealing element is emotional residue. Dreams that linger, disturb, or replay themselves carry intentional weight. They are meant to shape decisions. If unexamined, they quietly influence choices under the guise of intuition or caution. Discernment requires separating emotional impact from factual truth. Dreams may report a threat, but they do not dictate surrender. Destiny is not stolen in a single night. It is negotiated away through small internal agreements. Doubt accepted as humility. fear justified as wisdom, delay excused as timing. Dreams expose these negotiations in progress. They show the conversation before the contract is signed. Recognizing the attack at the level of identity restores leverage. Once you understand that the target is not your ability but your perception, resistance becomes possible. Identity clarified realigns authority. Purpose remembered restores momentum. What is exposed can be defended, and what is defended can no longer be quietly taken. The language of destiny is rarely literal. Futures are not shown as calendars or job titles. They're revealed through symbols because symbols speak to essence rather than detail. When destiny is under threat, dreams do not announce your future is being stolen. Instead, they portray loss, exchange, substitution, or corruption. Something that belongs to you is taken, altered, misplaced, or given to someone else. These are not metaphors chosen at random. They are precise indicators of what aspect of your calling is being contested. Theft is one of the clearest signals. When you dream of money disappearing, wallets stolen, or valuables missing, the issue is not finances alone. Money represents stored energy, opportunity, and capacity to act. A stolen wallet often points to authority and identity being challenged simultaneously. Houses are even more significant. A house is a composite symbol identity, legacy, territory, and calling. To dream of losing a house, being locked out, or watching it deteriorate signals an attempt to displace you from your assigned position. It is about removal, not homelessness. Clothing is another frequent symbol. Uniforms, robes, shoes, or specific garments represent office, readiness, and authority. Dreams where clothing is lost, torn, inappropriate, or missing altogether reveal an attack on confidence and legitimacy. To be naked or improperly dressed in a public setting is not about shame alone. It is about exposure without authorization. The message being pressed is that you are unprepared, unqualified, or out of place, even when that is objectively untrue. Documents and identification carry legal weight in dreams. Passports, certificates, contracts, or papers signify access, permission, and recognition. When these are stolen, forged, or rejected, the dream is addressing legitimacy. Destiny requires more than desire. It requires right standing. If the dream shows your documents invalid or missing, it points to a challenge against your right to proceed. Often this appears during transitions, promotions, or moments when greater responsibility is imminent. Vehicles represent direction and momentum. Cars, trains, planes, and boats all indicate how destiny moves through time. Dreams of vehicles breaking down, being stolen, driven by someone else, or going in the wrong direction suggest interference with timing and trajectory. You may still be moving, but not under your own authority. Being a passenger when you should be driving reflects loss of control over decision-making. Missing flights or trains emphasizes opportunities narrowly lost, not because they were unavailable, but because access was disrupted. Children, as symbols, represent future influence, generational impact, or emerging purpose. When a child is taken, hidden, injured, or threatened in a dream, the issue is preemptive sabotage. This often occurs before the individual fully understands what is being formed in their life. The attack targets what could be, not what already is. Many abandon their future because they feel an undefined grief or fear that originated in these symbolic warnings. Food and water also carry meaning. Consuming contaminated food, being unable to eat, or starving while food is nearby points to compromise nourishment. This is about truth intake, what is shaping your thinking. Destiny starves when it feeds on distortion. Poison nourishment does not kill immediately. It weakens over time. These dreams often coincide with seasons of confusion or subtle compromise in belief systems. Alteration is as significant as theft. Sometimes the item is not taken but changed. A familiar place becomes unrecognizable. A loved one behaves like a stranger. This indicates substitution. Something authentic is being replaced with a counterfeit. Destiny is not always stolen outright. Sometimes it is redirected into something that looks similar but lacks substance. This is one of the most dangerous forms of interference because it feels productive while being empty. What makes these dreams especially potent is emotional realism. The sense of violation, frustration, or helplessness is not incidental. Emotion anchors memory. The goal is to imprint a narrative that influences waking decisions. If you feel powerless in the dream, you may act cautiously in life. If you feel robbed, you may stop expecting restoration. The dream seeks to define the story you tell yourself about your future. It is crucial to understand that symbols do not create destiny. They reveal pressure points. They show where opposition is focused, not where defeat is certain. A dream of theft means value exists. No one steals what has no worth. The clarity of the symbol often corresponds to the specificity of the calling under threat. Destiny is resilient, but it is not automatic. Symbols expose attempts at diversion, delay, or dilution. Once recognized, they lose their covert power. What was hidden becomes visible. And what becomes visible can be confronted, reclaimed, and restored before the loss ever reaches the physical world. Repetition is never accidental. In any system, natural or strategic repetition indicates insistence, escalation, and unresolved conflict. When dreams repeat themselves, it is not because the mind is stuck. It is because the message has not yet been answered. Destiny-related interference does not rely on subtlety once it is ignored. It intensifies. The same theme returns with sharper emotion, clearer imagery, or greater urgency. What began as a warning becomes a confrontation. Many misunderstand recurring dreams as psychological loops, but repetition in dreams functions more like an alarm that has not been acknowledged. The content may vary slightly, but the core message remains consistent. You are still late. You are still unprepared. You are still being chased. You are still searching for something you cannot find. These are not different dreams. They are the same signal escalating volume. Silence is interpreted as consent. Escalation also appears in emotional intensity. Early dreams may feel odd or unsettling. Later ones feel urgent, frightening, or exhausting. This progression is deliberate. Emotional pressure is applied to force a decision, either awareness or resignation. If awareness is delayed long enough, resignation begins to feel like acceptance. The person adjusts their expectations downward and calls it maturity, when in fact it is retreat. Recurring dreams often surface during transitional seasons. Movement invites resistance. Growth attracts scrutiny. When a person approaches a threshold, new responsibility, deeper influence, expanded reach, the pressure increases. The dreams are not meant to stop movement, but to test resolve. Will the individual investigate, confront, and realign, or will they ignore and internalize the message of limitation? One of the clearest indicators of escalation is progression within repetition. The first dream may involve losing an item. The next involves someone intentionally taking it. The next involves someone intentionally taking it. The next involves being unable to recover it. This is not narrative coincidence, it is strategic framing. The story is being written incrementally. If the individual does not interrupt the narrative, it will continue to develop. Dreams rehearse outcomes before they occur. Another form of repetition is thematic rather than visual. Different dreams carry the same emotional signature: powerlessness, urgency, confusion, or exposure. The settings change, but the feeling remains. This points to a core unresolved issue. Destiny is not blocked by many things, but it can be delayed by one thing repeatedly avoided. Dreams circle that issue until it is addressed. Fatigue dreams are especially revealing. You are endlessly working, running, or preparing, yet nothing is completed. Progress never arrives. These dreams signal drain without fulfillment. They often accompany seasons where effort increases but fruit does not. The message is not to work harder, but to discern where energy is being diverted. Exhaustion is not proof of faithfulness. It can be evidence of misalignment. Recurring pursuit, dreams being chased but never caught, are designed to keep you reactive. A reactive person cannot be strategic. Constant alertness replaces vision. Over time, the individual begins to define life by what they are avoiding rather than what they are advancing toward. Destiny shrinks not because of failure, but because focus has been hijacked. There is also repetition through delay. Dreams where you are always almost there but never arrive. The door is visible but locked. The destination is known but unreachable. These reinforce a narrative of perpetual postponement. Hope becomes conditional. Expectation erodes. The danger is not disappointment, but normalization. Once delay feels normal, urgency disappears. What makes recurring dreams especially dangerous is familiarity. Over time, the dream loses its shock value. The individual becomes accustomed to it and stops questioning it. This is the point at which the dream has accomplished its purpose, not by terror, but by agreement. When a person stops resisting the message, it begins to shape identity. Yet repetition also carries mercy. The dream returns because the door is still open. The message repeats because resolution is still possible. If the goal were destruction, warning would be unnecessary. Repetition means there is still time to intervene. The turning point is interpretation followed by response. Once the pattern is recognized, the escalation loses power. Awareness breaks the cycle. The dream no longer needs to shout once it has been heard. Destiny does not require perfection, but it does require attention. What is repeated is asking to be confronted, and what is confronted can no longer operate in the shadows. Fear is one of the most efficient instruments ever deployed against destiny because it rarely appears as an enemy. It disguises itself as caution, wisdom, realism, or self-preservation. In dreams, fear does not argue, it demonstrates. It places you in situations where your strength is inaccessible, your voice is muted, or your escape is blocked. These dreams are not forecasting danger, they are rehearsing limitation. They are conditioning responses long before real decisions must be made. Dreams rooted in fear often involve pursuit. You are being chased, hunted, or followed, yet you rarely see the pursuer clearly. This vagueness is intentional. An undefined threat is more powerful than a visible one because it keeps the mind filling in possibilities. The goal is not capture, but exhaustion. A person constantly running in dreams wakes up vigilant, tense, and reactive. Over time, this posture bleeds into waking life, shaping choices around avoidance rather than advancement. Another common fear pattern is paralysis. You recognize danger or opportunity, yet your body refuses to cooperate. Legs feel heavy. Arms will not lift. Words will not form. These dreams aim to disconnect intention from action. Destiny requires movement. If movement can be associated with helplessness, hesitation becomes automatic. The individual begins to second-guess impulses, suppress initiative, and delay decisions, not because the opportunity is wrong, but because fear has trained the body to resist motion. Exposure dreams also carry fear-based manipulation. Being naked, improperly dressed, or publicly humiliated reflects vulnerability without protection. These dreams whisper that visibility is dangerous. If being seen equals shame, the safest place becomes obscurity. Many gifted individuals retreat from influence not because they lack ability, but because exposure has been framed as threat. Destiny does not disappear in these cases. It is buried under self-imposed invisibility. Dreams of falling, drowning, or losing control emphasize instability. They convey the message that surrendering control leads to destruction. Trust becomes risk. Faith becomes recklessness. The individual learns to grip tightly, plan excessively, and avoid dependence. Yet destiny often requires release before ascent. Fear reframes surrender as loss rather than alignment, convincing people to cling to what is familiar even when it limits them. Fear also manipulates through urgency dreams. You are late, something critical is happening, and you cannot get there in time. Obstacles appear unnecessarily complex. Time accelerates against you. These dreams instill a sense of chronic behindness. When a person believes they are always late, they stop preparing with confidence. They rush, panic, or withdraw. Precision gives way to anxiety. Destiny is not missed because of timing, but because fear convinces the person the timing is already lost. One of the most subtle fear tactics appears in dreams of false safety. You hide successfully, but remain hidden. You escape, but never reemerge. Relief replaces resolve. These dreams teach that survival is enough. They lower the definition of victory. Destiny, however, is not about merely avoiding harm. It is about fulfilling assignment. Fear celebrates survival while quietly stealing purpose. The power of fear-based dreams lies in repetition and emotional residue. You may forget the images, but the feeling lingers. The next day's decisions are shaped by an unease that feels instinctive rather than influenced. This is how manipulation works best below conscious awareness. If fear can be internalized as intuition, it rarely gets challenged. It is critical to understand that fear in dreams does not indicate weakness, it indicates proximity to significance. Fear escalates when movement matters. It intensifies near thresholds. The presence of fear-based dreams often coincides with moments when boldness would produce disproportionate impact. The opposition does not need to stop you permanently, only long enough for momentum to cool. Fear does not remove destiny, it negotiates it downward. It convinces people to settle for smaller versions of what they were meant to carry. Dreams expose this negotiation in progress. They reveal where fear is attempting to set terms. The moment fear is identified as a tool rather than a truth, its authority collapses. Fear cannot operate openly. It requires confusion. Dreams bring it into view. Once seen, it loses its ability to masquerade as wisdom. Destiny thrives on clarity. Fear survives on distortion. Recognizing the difference restores agency, courage, and forward motion. Nothing of significance is taken without permission. This is one of the most uncomfortable truths about destiny because it shifts the conversation from external enemies to internal agreements. Access is always required. Whether through ignorance, neglect, compromise, or unresolved wounds, a door must exist before interference can occur. Dreams do not accuse, they reveal. They expose where access has been granted long before the consequences are felt in waking life. Dreams often portray access points through images of broken boundaries, doors left open, windows without locks, walls with gaps. These symbols are not about physical security but spiritual and psychological jurisdiction. A boundary exists to define responsibility and authority. When boundaries are compromised, confusion enters. Responsibility blurs. Authority weakens. Destiny does not collapse immediately, it leaks slowly. Unresolved trauma is one of the most common access points. Dreams may revisit old locations, past relationships, or previous versions of yourself. This is not nostalgia. It is unfinished business. Trauma that is unaddressed becomes familiar territory. Familiar territory invites repeated intrusion. The dream is not reopening the wound. It is showing where the wound still governs behavior. Destiny struggles to advance while the past retains voting rights over the present. Compromise appears symbolically as contamination, dirty water, spoiled food, infested rooms. These dreams do not suggest moral failure in the simplistic sense. They point to mixture, truth blended with distortion, conviction diluted by convenience. Destiny requires clarity. Mixture creates confusion, and confusion creates access. When beliefs become flexible in the wrong places, purpose loses structural integrity. Another access point is silence. Dreams where you witness injustice, theft, or danger but do not intervene reveal passive agreement. Silence is not neutrality, it is consent. When a person consistently chooses peace over truth, avoidance over confrontation, access widens. Destiny is not maintained by aggression, but it does require courage. Dreams highlight where fear of conflict has replaced commitment to calling. Abandonment themes also reveal access. Dreams of leaving something behind, forgetting a child, or walking away from responsibility indicate neglect. Destiny is not only stolen by force, it is surrendered through fatigue. Wariness convinces people to lay down what they were meant to carry temporarily, only to find it gone when they return. These dreams often arise during seasons of prolonged pressure, when endurance is quietly eroding. False agreements surface through dreams of contracts, promises, or oaths made under pressure. You sign something you do not fully read. You agree to terms you later regret. These symbols point to internal vow statements made in moments of pain or fear. I will never try again. I am not meant for that. These inner declarations carry weight. Destiny is shaped not only by actions, but by beliefs spoken internally and left unchallenged. Dreams may also show misplaced trust. You hand something valuable to the wrong person. You follow someone who leads you astray. Trust is not weakness, but misplaced trust creates vulnerability. Destiny thrives in alignment, not dependence. When discernment is bypassed for approval, access opens. The dream is not condemning relationship. It is warning against abdication of discernment. One of the most sobering access points is familiarity with dysfunction. Dreams where chaos feels normal, danger is routine, or loss is expected, reveal normalization. When dysfunction becomes familiar, it no longer triggers alarm. Destiny is most at risk when warning signs stop registering as warnings. Comfort with limitation is more dangerous than opposition. It is essential to understand that access does not imply blame. It implies responsibility. Responsibility restores authority. What you did not know you could not guard, but once revealed, stewardship begins. Dreams grant the opportunity to close doors before damage becomes irreversible. Access can be revoked. Boundaries can be revoked. Boundaries can be restored. Agreements can be renounced. The exposure of access points is not a sentence. It is an invitation. Destiny is not fragile, but it does require guardianship. Dreams illuminate where guardianship has lapsed, not to shame, but to empower. Once access is closed, interference loses legitimacy. What operated quietly must retreat openly. Destiny regains stability not through force but through order. And order, once reestablished, becomes a fortress no thief can breach. Awareness is never the end of the conflict. It is the beginning of recovery. Revelation is not given to impress but to mobilize. Dreams that expose destiny theft are not meant to leave a person anxious or paranoid. They are meant to restore agency. Once something hidden is seen, it loses its greatest advantage, secrecy. What operates in darkness depends on ignorance to survive. The moment understanding enters, the balance of power shifts. Many people misunderstand awareness as passive knowledge. In reality, awareness is an act of resistance. To recognize an attack is to refuse its narrative. Dreams often attempt to define the future emotionally before it ever manifests physically. Awareness interrupts that pre-programming. Instead of waking with vague dread or resignation, the individual begins to ask precise questions. Why this image? Why now? Why this theme? Precision dissolves fear, because fear thrives on ambiguity. Recovery begins with reinterpretation. The same dream that once felt like a verdict becomes evidence. A dream of theft is no longer proof of loss. It is proof of value. A dream of pursuit becomes confirmation of movement. A dream of resistance signals progress, not failure. When interpretation changes, emotional residue changes. The dream loses its power to shape decisions subconsciously. Destiny regains narrative control. Awareness also restores timing. Many abandon opportunities not because they are unprepared but because they believe the moment is past. Dreams often lie about finality. They create urgency without truth. Once awareness is present, timing can be recalibrated. The individual stops rushing out of panic and starts moving with intention. Destiny is not fragile. It does not expire overnight. What it requires is alignment, not haste. Another aspect of recovery is reclaiming authority. Dreams frequently depict the dreamer as passive, overpowered, or confused. Awareness reverses this posture. The individual no longer asks, "Why is this happening to me?" but what is being contested, and why? Authority is restored when questions replace confusion. Destiny responds to clarity. Restoration also involves refusing false conclusions. Dreams may show loss, but they do not prove inevitability. A warning is not a prophecy of defeat. The mistake many make is internalizing the dream as a statement of destiny rather than a report of opposition. Once that distinction is made, despair loses its footing. Hope becomes informed rather than naive. Awareness brings responsibility, and responsibility brings stability. Once a person understands where pressure is being applied, they can reinforce that area. Boundaries can be strengthened, focus can be narrowed, distractions lose appeal. Destiny thrives under stewardship. What was once vulnerable through neglect becomes fortified through intention. Another critical outcome of awareness is patience with process. Recovery is rarely instantaneous. Destiny theft often happens gradually, and restoration often unfolds deliberately. Dreams reveal the direction of recovery, not always the speed. Impatience can recreate vulnerability by forcing premature movement. Awareness teaches restraint without fear, action without panic. Awareness also breaks isolation. Many people believe their dreams mean something is wrong with them. In truth, these patterns are remarkably consistent among those carrying significant responsibility or future impact. Recognizing this removes shame. The struggle is not personal failure, it is strategic resistance. Destiny under pressure is a shared experience among those whose lives matter beyond themselves. Perhaps the most powerful result of awareness is choice. Dreams often attempt to remove choice by presenting limitation as inevitable. Awareness restores the ability to decide rather than react. Reaction is driven by fear. Decision is guided by purpose. Destiny advances when decisions replace reactions. Recovery is not about reclaiming what was lost as much as protecting what remains and what is coming. Dreams look backward only to safeguard the future. Once awareness is established, the same channel that revealed interference begins to deliver confirmation, direction, and reassurance. The tone of dreams shifts. Confusion gives way to clarity. Pressure gives way to confidence. Destiny does not need to be chased. It needs to be guarded. Awareness is the first guard posted at the gate. From that point forward, nothing is taken quietly. What once operated unseen must now contend openly, and open contention always favors the one who is awake. When awareness arrives, the theft stops not because opposition disappears, but because consent is withdrawn. And without consent, destiny can no longer be stolen, only fulfilled.